On today's show, Josh Eisenhower of DSAD and Drew Rosener of Media Options join us to discuss purchasing aftermarket domains. How do you go through a list of tens of thousands of domains and pick which ones to buy? And then, how do you know how much to pay for them? Stay tuned and enjoy. First, serious about online trading? Secure your funds, keep your merchandise safe, and use a company that keeps the buyer and seller protected the whole way through. That's escrow.com. Payments you can trust. Finally, if you're a domain name investor, don't you have unique legal needs that require domain name technical know-how and industry experience? That's why you need Stephen Lieberman of Greenberg and Lieberman or Jason Schaefer of Esquire.com. Go search for Jason Schaefer or Stephen Lieberman on DomainSherpa, watch their interviews, and you can see for yourself that they can clearly explain issues, can help you with buy-sell agreements, deal with website content issues and UDRP actions, and even help you write your website terms and conditions. Stephen Lieberman and Jason Schaefer are the lawyers to call for internet legal issues. See for yourself at Esquire.com or APlegal.com. Hey, Sherpa Network. Thanks for joining us today. Today's show, we're going to discuss how to purchase domain names, particularly expired or other aftermarket domains, or even a drop. Joining us today, we have Drew Rosener, CEO of MediaOptions.com, and Josh Eisenhower, who you're probably familiar with from DSAD.com. He and Shane submit the expired list. They put a ton of work into letting you know what great expired domains you might not be aware of, or learning how to see what your options are there. And Josh, I think it's super cool that you're joining us from your firehouse. The domainer lifestyle is so fantastic that you can do this while you work.
Yeah, I mean, don't tell my bosses. I don't know if I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but there's nobody here to tell me not to. So,
hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, I might. If I get a call, I'll have to go. But is there like an app I could maybe while I'm driving down the street I can pull up the app.
I want to see that. Yes, there is an app. And if you get a call and you do that, that would be hilarious.
That would be the most watched episode ever. Josh is saving a life while filming DomainSherpa. Place your phone down by the side of the person.
If I get some like a head mount for it.
Yeah, exactly. Like a GoPro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DomainSherpa GoPro version edition.
Yeah, maybe we can get GoPro as a sponsor after that.
I see that coming. Well, Drew, you are on the island of Mallorca right now. If you had a GoPro, where would you take us right
now? Home. Wherever that is. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. All right, so let's talk a little about expired or non-expired domains, just your process, how you make some decisions each day. Josh, I know that you have shared what I think is a very popular episode with that where you and Mike Seiger discussed what'd you do? Processing lists, right?
Yeah, it was specifically about expireddomains.net, which is I think a lot of people use it. We tried to keep it secret for a long time, but it didn't work. But basically, it's a really well-built site that takes all the feeds and puts them in. There's different ways you can search and break them down. So yeah, that dealt with like how I go through it, because it is overwhelming when you first look at it. There's so many different filters and stuff, and while there's no, exact science to it or right way to do it, there's certainly different processes you can use to break down and make it easier for yourself. So that's what that was all about.
That's really cool. And I'll make sure to include a link to that so people can hear that if they want. What I really like about having the two of you on, and I like how you said it just before we started filming, Josh, you guys have a little bit different perspectives because you have different goals or interests in buying the domains. So Josh, you really like to dig very deep and look for the diamond in the rough, that, things that other people haven't bid on. Were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you, but yeah.
Yeah, and then you were hilarious. You said Drew looks for the topaz. Drew, your real goal in buying a domain is what? Is looking for what's sellable, what someone else is going to buy from you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm a value investor, right? So I'm looking for names which I think have inherent and clear commercial value, and then trying to buy them at what I believe is, anything from 10 to 20% of what I think I could sell it for ultimately. Sometimes we'll go, higher than that. Sometimes we won't go that high, but, I would say on average, we're looking for a name which, let's say, typically these days, if it's not something I think we can sell for at least $5,000, then I'm probably skipping over it at this point, which is probably actually the upper limit of what Josh is looking for. Maybe not.
Well, so like I'm not opposed. Like I've bought some decent names. I mean, the most I've ever paid is 10,000 for a domain,
Okay.
but I'm not opposed to that. Like I wish I did it more, right? Finding really good stuff for value. But I can't ignore the model that's worked for me this whole time.
Yeah.
And so that's why I stick with it. And it's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I like finding the stuff that's not easily distinguishable.
That's why I told Tess to bring you on. I mean, I think you're doing it better than anybody else that I'm aware of. You're a machine.
And sometimes it makes me nervous to talk about it and to for other people from the point of view that I don't want people to just blow money. I mean, I think you have to blow some money at the beginning just to, and then if it doesn't work, you try something else. But I mean, like I don't understand it. Sometimes when we have these submitted lists of names, and it's like you must not have watched the last 100 episodes, and so when I say I pay like close to $10 or $20 or reg fee for names, like I worry that somebody's going to just go blow tons of money and do it without knowing what they're doing or practicing, and then they just like, oh, that doesn't work. And I know Drew, you frown upon that model, and I think it's because so many people blow tons of money on it.
So that's the primary reason. I want to be super, super clear about that. There are absolutely exceptions. I know several people who make a very good living hand registering names or chasing, the bottom of the barrel, the stuff that, got overlooked, getting names at, $8, $12, $69, not getting into, bidding wars and bidding up more desirable names. But there's a much thinner margin. It's a numbers game, so you need to have some degree of volume for that model to make sense, at least at any type of scale. And so therein lies the danger that if you go about this too quickly and suddenly you've got a few hundred names or a few thousand names, and then you got to pay renewals on those, you can get yourself into a pretty deep hole that is very, very difficult to get out of, when you start compounding that. And so I just generally, basically as a blanket rule, tell people, stay away from registering names, stay away from, target high value names that a lot of people want, because that's a very clear indication that there is value there. And if you need to get out of it, there will be somebody else who's willing to pay, somewhere in the realm of what you've paid. But I definitely don't want to discount that is a viable model. You are living proof, and that's why we have got you on here today.
And I'd like to point out, if I may, each of you, your strategy works within something larger that I think sometimes the Sherpa network, especially new domainers, can not be aware that you need a synergy. Josh, I heard you say something about you love it or you're passionate about it. You love searching for the diamond in the rough. You enjoy it. So first of all, it's a hobby to you. Or a side business, whatever, but it's something you're passionate and you enjoy. And Drew, you love bidding, competing, and winning. And so I see, like, that speaks for something. So Drew is seeing who else is bidding. If other people are bidding, then clearly you can always sell this to one of those people, or there's a proof that people want it. And Josh has educated himself to enough of a degree that he can look for what people are not bidding, and he has the time in his situation and the enjoyment to go about it that way. So I think, part of people choosing their strategy needs to incorporate what's their time, their resources, their passion. And like Drew, you have a constant stream of people looking to purchase domains from you. So it makes sense that you can bid up a little higher on a domain or be the top winner when 50 people are bidding. And Josh, I want to hear more about where you find your buyers, if they come to you, if you seek them out. But I just want to say to the Sherpa network, as you're considering your strategy, remember those other parts of it. So.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point that I think has never been brought up on the DomainSherpa show, and that I don't necessarily want to publicly sort of share, but I think it is important. So to just put this whole thing in a little bit larger context, that is a strategic advantage that we, Media Options, has over other people who we might be competitively bidding for a name for, or we buy domains from other domainers often, and then a year, 2 years later, sell it to an end user. Maybe that domainer was holding it for 10 years, and then we buy it, and a year later we sell it, for 10x, and people get all up in arms, and they're you're lucky. How did you suddenly only you can, suddenly buy that name and just, you timed it perfectly. Now you flip to the end user. First of all, we almost never outbound sell our names. But as Tess mentioned, we have a steady flow of people coming to us. We have startups coming to us who are looking for a name. We have VCs coming to us who are looking for names for portfolio companies. We have entrepreneurs constantly coming. We have a steady flow of people looking for these brands. And part of my English, but as my boss in the fish business used to say, you can't run a whorehouse without any whores. So we need to have a stock of the type of names that these people are looking for when they come knocking on our door. And so obviously, we've got that strategic advantage that we've got the demand, we've got the steady flow of demand. And so if we can present them with a certain supply, it gives us a competitive advantage in order to turn that inventory over. So that definitely is something that people should keep in mind. Just because you see me bidding a certain amount for a name doesn't mean you should outbid me because I have some magic secret sauce.
Are you trying to get people to not bid against you?
No, I mean, sure, absolutely. No, but in all seriousness, though, there are people, and I've had discussions with certain people who literally, that is their strategy is, not just me, but several other people, and they'll say, oh, okay, as soon as I see that username bidding on a name, I'm going to just bid on it because if they want it, then there's upside. And there's probably some logic to that, but there is a lot of variables. So the point of what I'm trying to say is that there are a lot of these variables outside of just okay, here's the name, this is what we think it's worth, and this is, how much we're going to bid on it.
Yeah, you have
With that being said, go ahead, Josh.
Well, timing is probably the biggest variable in there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, exposure and marketing, but I mean, timing is anything can sell at the time's got to be right though.
Yeah.
When we're talking end user, I mean,
Yeah.
and these guys with like great names that they're very valuable. There just might not be anybody looking for them. It could be one of the best names in the world. It's got to be the right person at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I want to say, like, I think we need to preface like that, just because there's a lot of people bidding on it doesn't necessarily mean it could still be crap.
Yeah.
I mean, I see it all the time. Like names going for a lot of money that and it's a lot of times it's those ones that on the surface they look good, but then when you think about it, like nobody's ever going to use that for a brand, right?
Yeah.
And so, man, it's like you take this guy, this person that can't identify decent names, and then you're like, well, just go after this huge one. And man, sometimes I get nervous about that too. Like, just follow somebody. And so I think we need to, you call somebody and ask them.
Yeah. With that being said, though, right? I don't want to steal the show from Tess here, but let's get into our process. Let's, I think that's kind of the idea here is I compare, what I'm doing to select names and you and.
Yeah. So these were good prefaces. Very, you need to be careful investing your money. Let's do it. Drew, you want to start us? Let's show us your magic at NameJet.
Okay, so I am going to just sort of demonstrate basically what I do when I log into NameJet, which I do, multiple times a day. But let's just say, this is my once a day dig into NameJet, figure out which names I want to back order and how much I might want to bid on them.
Okay, if I may say, Josh, just because he's showing us this, you holler whenever you want. You
okay?
I
just shout out comments. I'll do it.
Yeah. Especially if they're profound. I can't even think of the word.
Profane.
Then I guess
profound. Profane. Either of those are welcome. Profane or profound.
All right.
Maybe you could combine them. I don't know. Drew, are you going to share your screen?
I'm trying.
Okay.
All right. So how do I move this up here? Okay, here we go. All right. So I log into NameJet, and essentially the first thing I do is I come here. So I sometimes I'll see something to pop out on me on this front page, and I'll want to like this one right here, XTFX. It just popped out at me. I'm like, all right, you know what? Boom, FX on the end. Foreign exchange. You're talking about a high value industry, lots of players. 4letter.com, low downside, high upside. Boom, I love that. That's right in my wheelhouse, right? So let's back order that, right? XTFX. That will no longer be a value domain now that we're highlighting it. But in general, like that's the kind of 4letter.com I love, right? Because you've got some added value because it's FX for foreign exchange. It's 4letter.com. So you're ultimately most of these things are going to sell for that sort of commoditized 4letter.com pricing.
Yep.
And if you can find something that takes it from being just a generic commodity to being something which has got value added, like, okay, really it's like 2 letters with foreign exchange, then you're slightly increasing your probabilities of a resale. And essentially that's the name of the game is you need to be increasing your probabilities of a resale and decreasing your downside. That's always what you're looking for here. So I know 4letter.com, if I'm buying 4letter.com in an auction, under most circumstances, you're going to be within a certain market range. And so your downside is fairly limited and your upside, if you can identify something that will take this thing outside of its commoditized value, then, your upside is increased, right? So that's just one example right from the homepage. But basically, what I gotta do is go ahead.
A real quick question. So when you're in NameJet, are you differentiating the NameJet exclusive or from the pending delete? Because that was a pending delete name.
Yeah, that was a pending delete name. I really don't care. The only thing I do care about is reserves. So if I see something that's got like just a really high reserve, I'm just going to skip over it because, sometimes I'll still, put in the minimum bid just because I want to track it. I want to watch it. But for the most part, I'm just skipping over anything that's got like a really high reserve, like CIA.com, 700,000 plus, reserve, that's not going to sell.
The reason I bring that up is just so people understand that the pending deletes might not go to auction at NameJet. They might be caught by drop.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Wait, say it again so our viewers can hear.
Oh, so there's NameJet exclusive inventory, and then there's the pending delete, which are just the names that are in the 5-day pending delete period, and then at the end of that, they're going to drop, right? So
which would say like pre-release.
Oh, is that what they? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're talking, 80,000 names for one day compared to 5,000 of the exclusive inventory.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and those names can be back ordered anywhere, and probably Dropcatch is going to catch them. But
So here's the thing. So that's a very good point. So for my purposes, and it used to be different, but for my purposes now, just because I limited time, I really don't care if it's expired, if it's public auction, pre-release, whether it's going to be a dedicated like for sure, even for sure it's going to be whether a NameJet registrar partner name, or if it's just a general pre-release expired name which could go anywhere. The reason I actually only back order for the most part, unless I see a name where I'm like 1,000%, I want that name, I'm going to back order it everywhere to make sure that I'm in on it. For the most part, basically everything that is of value, correct me if I'm wrong, but pretty much everything that's of value either will end up on NameJet or it'll end up on Dropcatch, or GoDaddy expired. But
I mean, as the pending delete, I'd say that Dropcatch gets 80% of the good stuff,
yeah,
at least.
For sure.
Yeah.
Majority of it does go to Dropcatch, especially the higher value.
Because they've got the power. They have a ton of power behind the amount of registrars. Yeah.
Yep. So, but the difference and the reason why I only focus on back ordering at NameJet is because I have the limited amount of time. And anything which, again, my strategy is different than yours, right? I'm only looking for sort of higher value names. And so anything which is of higher value, I'm relying on the market to do the rest of the work. And so somebody's going to back order that name at Dropcatch. And anybody join that auction, right? So all I do is I'm watching Dropcatch auctions every single day, but I'm rarely back ordering on Dropcatch because I know that if it's a high value name and it doesn't end up at NameJet, it'll and it goes to Dropcatch, somebody else probably back ordered it, and then I'll just jump into the auction.
That's a great point.
It's an open auction, right? So anybody can jump in at any time until the auction closes.
Okay.
So whereas with NameJet, if it's an expired name, if you didn't back order it, you can't get in the auction. Versus something like this, like EasyM.com. So EasyM.com, easy marketing, easy whatever.
Easy marijuana.
So this name ends in 3 hours. But I could bid, well, I guess I did back order this one. But if we went to a different one, like let's find one that I did at public auction. I definitely didn't back order this name, right? So this name ends in 3 hours too. I did not back order this name. But I can still participate in the auction. And so that's how all the auctions are at Dropcatch.
Right. Yeah. Anything with public on it at NameJet, anybody should be able to.
Yep. That means anybody can jump in at any time until the auction is over. Whereas Dropcatch, anybody can jump in at any time on all their auctions, whether it's expired or it's an aftermarket listing or whatever. It's just anybody can jump in at any time.
Okay, so I know you have ADD, but go back. We haven't gotten here. Like the first thing I do when I get to NameJet is, and then you did.
Sorry, I threw you off.
So, No, that's
So
okay.
the first thing you do, you just go to namejet.com pretty much. You log in and you click the search button. Is that right?
Yep. Click search. Yep. And then the first thing I do is I click on bidders. Right. And so I want to see it's way more important to see the number of bidders. And I want to sort from most bidders to least bidders. And this is a more relevant factor than the high bid, right? Because if I click on high bid, then you get things like CIA.com. It's like there's a $700,000 bid on there, but the reserves $701,000 or more. So it's kind of just noise.
So you want to see
Right.
what the market is speaking and people have interest in. So the top bid,
Yeah. So
AMZ.com has 100
years ago, the market, there were way fewer players in the market. And so, and most people were kind of waiting to the last second to back order names, or, everybody was kind of playing games, and now it's kind of futile to do that. So, essentially I'm looking for the names which are the most popular, which I judge by the number of bidders here. So I'm sorting by most bidders to least bidders. And then essentially I'm going to go through the list all the way until I get to the page which has, I'm going to look at all the domains which have 2 bidders or more.
Okay, let's look at 5 together.
So here's page 5. Wow,
let's look at
bidders. So it looks like, so here's the thing. So right now you've got a massive inventory of 5number.coms. So normally if I clicked on page 5, I would already be at like getting towards the end of the domains which have 2 bidders or more. Sometimes, page 7, 8, 9, but for the most part, but because of all these 5number.coms and because that numeric market is just so big, and you've got, probably 5,000 Chinese that want to buy those, you still got 20 bidders on page 6. Let's see, let's go out a little bit further. Because page 1, it's a little bit less interesting just because those are like the really obvious names. If you got 50 people that want to bid on that name, it's pretty obvious that name's got, value. Wow. So you still got 14 on page 10.
Stop. BetterKitchen.com, CoffeeTreats.com. Find something that jumps out to you.
Okay. So let's just wait for this next page to load.
Oh, proxy.
Okay. So yeah, I actually like that. That proxybids.com that's a nice name.
Okay. So what would be your process? You're like, all right, I noticed that.
Well,
what do you do next?
So let's take this one. So whiteknight.com, right? So that's kind of a common expression. I don't even know what the meaning is necessarily. I assume it's something to do with like being a white hat sort of warrior, for the general, doing things for betterment of somebody or something. But my process would be this. So I would literally say, all right, whiteknight.com. I like that name. I'm going to open it up in a new tab. I'm going to kind of just look at, okay, you got 13 bids. Estebat's only putting it at $700. I don't trust that. I know just the fact that I know the phrase whiteknight.com, it's already got more value than $700. So let's go into Google. All right. And I'm going to do, in quotation marks, white knight. Right. And let's see what comes up. Kind of the first thing I like to do actually is come to news, because that's going to give you whether there's anything trending, whether there's anything like happening, companies with news.
So I'll be back shortly. I gotta go. I'll just hit mute.
Go save a life.
Yeah, that's all right. See ya.
How exciting.
Okay.
So you go to the news first.
Yes. Okay, so for example, here's the Bendigo Advisor. Police will set up a pop-up station in the intersection of 4th Street Hill and High Street during White Night to help any members. I have no idea what that is. Let's see.
And does it make a difference to you that this is a .au? So it's an Australian news article?
No, it just means it's probably something related to Australia, this particular article. But I'm just trying to identify what are the meanings. So like White Knight's event area has been done. So this is an event, right? So White Knight is some kind of event. They're probably not, if that was going to be my buyer, they're probably not paying a lot of money. So I don't really care. Ganja White Knight, another episode, another event. Okay, so let's come back here. Let's go back to all.
So now you're not in the news, but just all Google search results. And the first one is this.
I'm trying to figure out what's the commercial market for White Knight. Who would benefit from using this? So the White Knights are a kind of all-night arts festival held in many cities in the summer. Okay, so this isn't local to that one city. It looks like White Knight is something worldwide. It originated in Russia.
And it comes from a different phrase, Wikipedia says, where a white night are those nights with lots of sun in like when you're in Alaska or something. Yep.
So here we go, White Night. Okay, may refer to astronomy, a night in which it never gets completely dark. Festival, riots. Looks like this was a series, like a television series. You got a book. There's a movie, another movie, video game, an album.
So what I'm hearing there, I'm hearing range. It's not like there is only one buyer or only one place.
Exactly.
People in books and riots both like this term.
Yeah. Whiteknight.com. It's got purpose, right? It's an expression that has some mind share already, and there's multiple use cases for it. I love this name. I'm back ordering it.
Okay, now the fact that I thought at first that it meant a knight in shining armor, white knight with a K, but it isn't. It's just a night, like an evening.
Oh, you picked up on that. I missed that. I actually missed that. I actually had it in my mind like White Knight versus the Black Knight, right? Like, you're right.
Yeah, is it like the White Knight and the Black Knight are with a K, right?
Yep.
So I
totally
actually expected when you Google, I was keeping quiet the whole time. I thought when you Googled it, it would say, did you mean White Knight with a K? But it didn't. So does that affect, like a potential misspell, does that affect how much you'll bid on it? Do you think that affects the value as a brand?
I actually like it. Well, here's the thing. So I actually like the meaning with the K a little bit better. For example, it says, in business, a white knight is a friendly investor that acquires a corporation at a fair consideration with the support from the corporation's board of directors and management. So that would have a tremendous amount of value to me because there was a lot of investors that would like to be identified as white knight. It'd be a great name for a fund. It'd be a great name for a VC. Private equity. So I liked whiteknight.com. Let's see what's on that domain. We're going a little bit deeper than I would probably go on a name like this, but I think it's a really good way to sort of flush out what I'm looking for. So it's owned by a domain investor and it's parked. Okay, so then I totally always go down this rabbit hole of, all right, let's find out who owns it.
We're at DomainIQ.com.
So I'm using DomainIQ. All right. And it's listed for $700,000 and it's under privacy. I could go and dig into it with the Whois history, but I'm going to probably not do that on this show because I don't know if that would break any terms of service. But it's owned by a domain investor and they're asking a lot of money. If it was owned by a company, it would make me a little bit more interested in this one just because of the propensity for typos, which would add traffic, and everybody loves traffic. So that would just add a little bit of value in my mind. If this White Knight with the K was developed, it would add a little bit of value in my mind.
Okay.
If this was the domain with the K, it would add a lot of value just because of the likelihood that it sells into the financial industry where names sell for much higher prices.
Okay.
So,
this is, this is, when we air this show, this auction will still be going. Do you want to talk about like what you would think a high bid to be, or what your high bid would be, or do you not want to talk about that?
Yeah. So my high bid on that name, if it were an auction right now, I generally, sometimes I'm thinking about like, what would I bid on this name? But basically my primary filter, is really just, is this a name I think I could sell for $5,000 or more? And in this case, I do. I think that, this isn't a slam dunk by any stretch, but it's a name that I would expect to sell for $5,000 or more.
Okay.
And one of the ways that I just sort of the really, really quick way of deciding, is this a name that could likely sell for $5,000 or more, is coming down here, looking at exact match searches.
So you're on
exact match only. I'm on Estabot, right? And I don't really care what they're valuing the name at, right? They're valuing it at $730, which I already said I think that's bogus. It's taken in the .com, it's taken in the net.org and the info. Biz and US are available, but those are both pretty much worthless. So I'm going to scroll down, and I've got 8,100 exact match searches. We've got a cost per click of $1.75, right? So that tells me, there's more than $5,000 value. There's more than $5,000 in value here, right?
Okay,
just super, really, without getting into the science of it, just really simple and obviously, do your own due diligence. But this is one of the ways that I just make very, very, very quick decisions when I'm looking at a large list of names is, does the name have more than 5,000 searches a month? And is the cost per click $1 or more, right? If the cost per click is less than $1, then I want to see at least 10,000 searches. Okay, and if the cost per click is more than $1, then, well, actually, I want to see 5,000 searches anyways. Unless it's like, I don't know, just a brandable, something made up brandable that could be a brand, right?
Okay, and just to clarify, you're talking about exact searches. Go back to Estabot, can you? Or you closed it? So
I closed it.
On Estabot, just to note, the brackets there are to show that it's exact. And if you have a question about what it means, like he's saying 8,100 searches, that's monthly searches in Google. And each of the little question, there's the little I for info over to the right. So just to point that out for anybody who's newer to it. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, so actually, even though we've talked about it 1,000 times on DomainSherpa, it is something that people still get confused about. Exact match searches means how many people per month are going into Google, this is only tracking Google, and typing in a particular key phrase, a word, letters, an acronym, whatever it might be, whatever's in these brackets here, okay? How many people are typing in that and that alone? So not what is White Knight or White Knight Russia or when is White Knight, right? It's just White Knight, nothing more, nothing less, okay? Exact match searches. That's what 8,100 represents, okay?
Cool.
Broad match, where you see 368,000, is things which incorporate White Knight or are related to White Knight, but are not, but is not an exact match search of White Knight, right? There's 360,000 other searches beyond the 8,000 exact match searches. So the exact match is part of the broad search, but broad search is, inclusive of many things beyond just the exact phrase, okay? Which is why we only look at really exact match. Now, seeing a high number on broad search is also meaningful. It can be telling. It can also be very deceiving. But having a very high number of broad searches does give you some implication that there is use in commerce and use in culture, which is what I always come back to as what drives the value of a domain name. Use in commerce, use in culture. And so a high number of broad searches means that there's people searching for it in conjunction with something else, which has some propensity to indicate use in culture, use in commerce.
Yep.
Okay. One thing that people often confuse these numbers with is Google search results. So a lot of people email me basically every single day saying, oh, but I watched DomainSherpa. I saw your formula. I've got this domain name, whatever it is. And I typed it into Google and it has 3,380,000,000 search results. And they're like, this domain must be worth so much money, right? And I'm like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. And then, I realized, oh, they're talking about Google search results, not Google search volume. So when you do a Google search for whatever it is, okay, even if you look up something absolutely ridiculous like red bear candy cone. I'm just making weird things up. Okay. There's still 14 million results for red bear candy cone, whatever the hell a red bear candy cone is. Apparently it is a thing. Unfortunately for the world. So, anyways.
Yeah. So you're talking about the Rosener equation. Your equation for how you calculate value is based on how many times a user of Google is searching for that, not how many times Google says there's some document that includes that term. Okay, let's go back to NameJet. Do you want to tell us what you're going to bid, how you calculate what the value would be here, what you would bid on White Knight, or you want to go on to the next domain?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a little bit more in depth. I think in this particular case, like with White Knight, it's not going to be a real high value name, but it's one of those names, that I'm going to probably put in the $5,000 to $10,000 category. And so I would be looking to spend probably no more than a few $100s. Like I probably wouldn't want to go beyond $250 for this name, maybe $350. I was saying earlier that I like to find names which I'm paying between 10 and 20% of the value, sometimes more, sometimes less. In this case, I'm probably a little bit less than that because it's at the lower end of the value spectrum. But yeah, I think it's a name I'd sell for $5,000 to $10,000. I don't think it offers much liquidity. And so therefore I would want to be in the lower, probably maybe more like 5% of what I think I could sell it for. And so, 5% of the lower end of what my value range is, which is 5,000, puts us at $250. So, I'm not going to put a $250 back order price, but I'm going to put the minimum bid in, and then I'm going to wait for it to go to auction. And then I'd probably bid up to $250 for this name.
Okay.
Maybe a little bit more, in the heat of the moment, you never know. If I see, somebody that I bid against often, bidding against me, then, I'll probably go a little harder. Like, if it's, if it's Schilling or Mike Mann or Amar, I'm going to throw an extra bid on there just to chap their ass. So,
so again, that's your passion. Welcome back, Josh. Thanks for doing what you're doing. So
I just drove down the street, got canceled, and came back. Like I wasn't.
Huh? I mean,
yeah, they did.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say they didn't need me, so they canceled me before I even got there. So I just did a big loop and came back.
I mean, domains is the coolest industry ever, that you can have this lifestyle where you're, investing in between your calls. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. Okay, Drew, picking
Here's
up
an interesting one. Silk Road.
Oh, with the dash. Silk,
with the dash, yeah.
So silk-road.com.
Yep.
So that immediately jumps out as interesting. Where are you going to go? What you going to do?
Well, it's not even necessarily interesting that I want to bid on it, because obviously nobody is going to build a business on this. But I'm more curious about, which isn't necessarily something we need to do on this show, but it's one of those things I'd love to dig in and see whose name was this? Was it being used? What was it being used for? You know, why are there still 135,000 people a month searching for Silk Road? Even though, you know, the guy's in prison.
Okay,
you know,
that's a rabbit hole.
Just an interesting name in general.
Yep.
Sometimes doing that type of weird diligence leads you down a rabbit hole that'll lead you to something else. Sometimes they're very profitable rabbit holes. In this particular case, you know, I have zero interest in buying silk-road.com just because it has no chance of selling to an end user. So you tell me, do you want to go to Josh? Or
Yeah, Josh, you want to show
ask me more about what I'm doing here?
I want to hear more, but I also want to give Josh a turn, especially if you might have to leave. Josh, do you want to show us something you do?
Yeah, sure. So I use expireddomains.net. Do I have the screen share function?
So if you, just scroll your mouse down and it'll create a little menu and you'll see share screen.
Here, let me,
You'll see a green share screen box. If you put your mouse over the video thing.
Okay. There
we
go.
See it?
Yep. Is this,
Yep.
Coinbridge.com. I like it.
What's it? Oh.
Coinbridge.
So I'm going to reset what I was, so what I was doing there is I have lists of keywords that I'll run through. Expired domains, you can do 30 at a time. So I do it by length with those. So my eye can see the domains easier instead of jumping back and forth. But I mean, so let's compare how I do. I'm going to move this out of the way. So if I go to NameJet, NameJet. I just want to real quick, I'll contrast how I do NameJet with what Drew does.
Cool.
And that'll show this tool, and then I guess we can go into like how I look for, you know, the pending deletes and the like GoDaddy stuff. But there's 215,000 names that are exclusive inventory for NameJet right now. So this doesn't have the pending deletes. And so it has the ones with reserves and the public, private. So say I wanted to, I was looking to do 3 letters, right?
Hey, Josh, I'm just going to say for the people who are listening and not watching, so you're on expireddomains.net, and all you've done so far is click on the NameJet button, and you have the 215,000 results you mentioned. So keep going.
So there's nothing filtered. Let's say I wanted, you know, there was all those the 5 ends that were going. There was tons of them. If I wanted to be in on all the 5 end auctions, I think they were public anyway, but if they weren't public, so I could just go to here, go to numbers, hit enter, and it's going to give me all the 5 number stuff. And you can see most of them have reserves, but there's 2,000 right now. So I could pull this off in a text file, and then.
Where do you see it has a reserve?
What's that?
Over the right. Yeah, with R. Okay.
Yeah, and this is a feature that they just added into their data feed. Before they didn't have it. You never knew which name had a reserve or not. So it was a nightmare. So when I'm going through it for myself, I filter out everything that has a reserve. I don't even want to look at it, you know, because that's not what I'm looking for. But this is, so if I was doing that, right, because I'm looking for names that other people aren't going to target, I could do whether with 5 ends. So anytime there's a metric or like a length or of the number or a single word or age or like those are the ones that everybody's going to find, right? It's not like a 5 ends going to slip through, right? So if I want to narrow it down to the names that are expiring and not, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're expiring. It just means that they didn't put a reserve on them. There's 73. So went from 2,000 to 73. And I forgot to, so I'm going to go, I just went .coms, right? We're not buying 5n.orgs or anything crazy like that.
So now you've changed your filter to be anything on NameJet with no reserve, that's a .com.
And a number.
Right. So then now we're down to 8.
And it's only numeric. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So
that went from 2,000 to results to 8 results.
Right. Okay. But if I wanted to be in everything and I didn't care, I could just upload that, go to the bulk back order and put all of them in NameJet. If I just wanted to keep track of them all, or like, so I can do the same thing with 4L, 3L, whatever. Anything that's, clearly defined, has a clearly defined metric, or, we can search for that and pull them all. So what I do is a little bit different in NameJet, or anything where I'm going to be potentially bidding or paying a higher price than registration. I look at them a little closer. Like I'm willing to just throw stuff around if it's just reg fee, as opposed to like NameJet where I'm paying $70 minimum. So one of the things that people, I think, have this preconceived notion, or there's validity to it, but that the older ones are always better. There's a higher concentration of good names that are older, right? But there's still lots of good names that have new registrations, because everything that goes through pending, delete, and drops gets a new date.
Yeah.
The problem is you have to go through a lot more crap to get to them. So that's why it's always easier to go by date, because you find there's a higher concentration, stuff sticks out. So what I do is I'll and we're sticking in NameJet here. So say we'll make it max of 15. I always put one val because I don't want just a crazy 6 consonant Chinese.
So you're changing your filter to be no numbers, no hyphens, .com only, 15 in length, and at least one vowel. Maximum 15 in length. Okay.
Just as a comment, I actually generally use 11 characters as my max, but 13 characters is actually a very meaningful number. It's not ambiguous. 13, I think it was something. There was a report from one of the big agencies put out a report, and it was something like 97% of global brands are under 13 characters.
Right.
I wrote an article on that. I'll try to find a link.
I agree. But there's just some words that to describe the business, they don't fit into that, just because it's a bigger word.
Yep.
And again, I am not
CarInsuranceQuotes.com.
Yeah. I'm not shooting for the global brands. I mean, sure, I want them, but when I'm at this level, and maybe I get some, maybe there's, you remember I was telling you about vcrypto.com?
Yeah.
So I picked that up for $8, right?
Mm-hmm. Did you sell
because
it?
I found it. No, I still have it. I haven't sold it yet. Remember, I had an offer, and I ran it by you.
I made you an offer.
You gave me an offer. Yep, you made me an offer too. But we're taking a little bit of a downturn now. But I think that's a great V Crypto. I think that's a great brand for something.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yep.
But I had to look and find it. And the registration date was the year was 2017 or something. So,
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, so the other thing I'll do is I'll do end date, right? Like we'll do today.
Okay.
That pairs. So I'm not looking through everything.
Okay, and your filter also says no reserve auctions still.
What's the difference between length and characters?
I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. So they have 2 filter options.
It's so I could filter it so that if I'm doing three numbers and 1 letter, you know what I mean, and that's all I want for some reason.
Oh.
It's basically taking the database and then you can break it apart however you want. So and then
so it's an option if you want only LLN or something that you could filter it that way.
Say I just want to do 4-character .coms, right? I'm just going to do this, right? And it's going to pull all the 4 characters up. I don't need any other filters. So,
okay, let's stay back on track. So show us your 15 length, no reserve.
So there's a couple different ways I do it. If it's a big list, I'll break it down by specific length, like depending delete. So if I take it out if I put all those filters on depending delete, there'll be about 40,000 or 50,000 names. And when I do that, I'll break it down into length. Like I'm going to look at all the 7 character names, and I'm going to go through it that way. Since NameJet is only 50, it's only 2,000 or 3,000 names now. I can go by length or I can go by age, depending on time, right? So now I got.
What do you mean depending on time? Depending on how much time you have?
Yes, because the higher concentration of good names are in the older ones. I can go through and find stuff that somebody might not back order in the older stuff because it's the higher concentration. It means I don't have to spend as much time going through it. Like, so if I really want to break this list down, and remember, there's 10 of these a day, right? You got the GoDaddy, the GoDaddy closeouts if you wanted, the pending delete. So you can't. I used to try to go back and catch up if I missed something, especially with you just got to keep moving rolling on. And the other thing I do is, so say I like stuff, and I'm just I highlight it. I all that research that Drew did when I was on that call for that one, like I don't do that. I'm not bogging myself down. To me, it's about speed at this stage, right? I'm just going to go through. I'm going to look at stuff later if I want to take an extra look at it. But I never, if something catches my interest, I just click. I save it.
Okay, what catches your interest right now? So,
like the BMAS or whatever that is, like just on an initial look, it's got it's CVC. It's got an old registration. I'll look at it. It's got some search volume. I might highlight that and come back to it. But I'm going to go down. Okay. And then the strategy kind of changes as you're like Aroga. I don't know what that is, but it could be a brand. I'm just going through and PitPay. I don't know what PitPay is, but so it's just stuff that sticks out to me right away that I'm going to take a second look at, but I don't want to bog myself down with time. So but I can also look at
so it's not just the name that's sticking out; it's the combination of the name, the reg date, the search volume.
So here are the other extensions. I can sort it by how many extensions it's registered in. I'd like to say that sometimes I want to just get rid of the other stuff and look at the name because I think sometimes I'm influenced too much by that other junk. Like, I want to get to the point where I see a name and I'm like, that's good. And have confidence in the fact that without any other metrics, I think it's a good name.
But I feel like but a lot of beginners, I think, really need to look at those other metrics to help them. And as you get more advanced, then you can start. They do,
but what I see a lot of times is that it throws them off because they're going to look and say, look how much search volume this has, and it's going to be crap. It could be a typo or it's just something that nobody's ever going to use as a brand. So that's why yes, they should be using those metrics, but you need to understand the bigger picture. Like, there could be a decent name, right? But is it in an industry that's going to buy a name for anything over $1,000?
Yep. Okay, let's find 2 more that stick out to you.
Okay. I mean, just going to the other. So how about so say I went down through that and I checked out the length and I got, so then maybe I could do global search volume I have in there. I just want to show you a couple of different ways to sort it really quick.
What is this BL number?
Backlinks, I think.
Okay.
So, I have backlinks in there. But I always look at the CCP is the amount of different C block diversity. Mm-hmm. So if you have like that one has, and it might be legit. It's 1996 registration, but it's got 18,000 backlinks, but it's only showing 27 unique C block IPs.
Yeah.
Right. So
it's only 27 domains which are sending 18,000 backlinks to that
Well,
URL.
so, but it could be 1,000 domains, but they're all link farmed and coming from the same IP.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
Right? Yeah. So that's showing me that they're all in different servers. The domains that are pointing to it with the backlinks.
Interesting. Okay.
So C block is the last block of the IP address.
You just taught me something.
Yeah. So that's when you see those names, especially with the newer registration date, and you got all these links coming into it, and there's no IP diversity, it's probably from a link farm where it doesn't matter. You could have 1,000 links, backlinks coming in with 1,000 different root domains, but if they're all coming from the same IP, the same person owns them all, and Google knows that. So that's why.
So is that what's cabotaudio.com? That's got is that what you're saying, or that's not? Because that has a great Alexa rank, but
yeah. So I actually don't know what all of these things on here would just be items to clue us in to look farther if we were looking for a traffic type thing, right? So I want to use I just watched like Moz, the Open Site Explorer, or Ahrefs to look at, because I'm not just going to look at. I'm going to look at this and say, wow, that's got a lot of backlinks. It's got a decent amount of diversity in C block IPs, and but now we want to look at anchor text and spam keywords and stuff. So we can use, if we were going for names that have traffic and backlinks, right? I don't even do that anymore. I don't even mess with that. I just want the name for the name value.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, did you see our show where we had Moz founder Rand Fishkin on?
Yeah, I just watched it not too long ago. Yeah.
But anything you wish we'd asked him?
Well, I'm not sure, because I don't really know. Like once it's a whole different world, really. Like once you're getting into Google, and like take Moz. Like Moz Open Site Explorers is analyzing the down to like where these links. It's putting a rank on it, a page rank, or domain authority, page authority, and it's kind of judging the juice coming into that domain. But it's really just a whole different ball game, right? It's a whole different business. It's a whole different, and I don't know how much value anymore. Like, so, a couple of years ago, all these domains were getting bought up for like private blog networks, right? So you would buy these, and then you'd build a new site on it, and then you'd have them at on different servers, so you could point to your money site and basically boost your money site. They still have value with traffic, but I don't know. Like, I don't know anything about that. And I delved into it for a little bit. That's actually how I got into domains, actually. With buying and selling domains is trying to, like, I was doing stuff on marketing and looking into that angle of online business. And that's when I came across domains. It initially
was why, like, sometimes you're on GoDaddy and you'll see like some name that looks like it's absolutely worthless. And there's like a couple $1,000 or a few $100, and you're like, well, what the hell is going on? And it's generally because of the backlink profile, and they're looking for the SEO juice, or maybe they think traffic.
But so GoDaddy puts traffic numbers up, but like I've had domains that have gone through the auction process. I mean, expired and gone through their auction process and sold for hundreds of dollars, and I know all the traffic was crap.
Yeah,
like I know it was all bot traffic. Yeah. GoDaddy is making a killing with the traffic numbers and with the valuation.
Yeah. But those traffic numbers are definitely not to be trusted.
Nope.
And it's because of bots going to them, or because you're not clarifying or qualifying the traffic.
Well,
okay, so I'm sorry I kind of sidetracked you, Josh. So you've
right.
2 or 3 domains here. What would you do next now that they've caught your attention? What's your next step?
Okay, well, so I just want to, just real quick, I'll touch on like some of the other ways, like the age. I can do search volume, and sometimes I'll go through a list a couple times, right? So then what I would do, if we're talking specifically NameJet, I'm going to highlight them. I'm going to go to the ones that I have saved by going to, I don't even know what I have saved anymore, but I'm going to only watch list, and then it's going to give me just the ones that I've highlighted. And then I'm going to copy them and then I'm going to paste them in a spreadsheet. And then, so I don't bid on them until, I don't put a back order in a NameJet until 11:59 Eastern time, because that's, and a lot of people do it. And then there's bots that do it too. But because of what, like what Drew does is look, there's a lot of people that are only looking at the bids, right?
Yep.
So anything with the bid comes on the radar on any auction platform. Like GoDaddy, I'm not bidding on GoDaddy till there's a bid. I'm going to try to, the problem is all these things have APIs that'll catch it. Like there's a GoDaddy API that they'll wait till it doesn't have a bid and they'll pick it up as it goes to closeouts. Yeah. The same thing with NameJet. There's names that it'll just, the API will put bids on them all at the last minute. What I don't like about NameJet, what makes it, what I wish was easier is if there wasn't this two-step time frame that I have to observe. So I have an alarm set on my phone for quarter of 11 and then a minute before, so that I remember. That gives me 15 minutes to go through the list if I forgot, and then at 11:59 I can hit enter. But then if it goes to auction, I gotta remember some other time throughout the middle of the day in 3 days. So that's what I don't really like. It's like all these different time frames I gotta hit to make sure don't give anybody the heads up to what I'm bidding on. That's what I don't like about it. But that's why I suggested to them too that I think that like the first bid should be like, say you get a $20 discount, right? If you made the first bid on a name, you get $20 off. Then I would put bids in all the time because there's be some benefit to it. But I think a lot more names would sell. If I was selling private names, because they would show up on the radar. But you would get some advantage you would get some benefit to being the first one to bid. Yeah, it's just an idea. But
man, I'll tell you what, expired domain should be giving you commissions, because like you've just convinced me. Like I'm totally, as soon as this is over, I'm getting a membership with expired domains, because so like I was going through the like sort of one by one process of what I do on NameJet, but really what I'm doing is I'm going to just take the whole slew of all of the names which are in the sort of galaxy of names that I would be interested in. So domains with more than 2 bids, copy and pasting all of them into a spreadsheet, then running them through Estibot, and then using the Estibot data, which is, this actually has even more data than what Estibot's got. And then doing sorting by a million different ways. So I'm going to sort by search volume first. And so the names with the highest search volume, checking out those, looking at whether or not they've got a reserve. If the reserve looks realistic, I'm going to back order it. Looking at oldest names. And, these are the different filters I'm using. So similar to what you're doing, I'm looking at search volume, then I'm looking at age, then I'm looking at CPC. So I'm looking at, some of these names that might have like really low search volume, but they're in an industry with crazy high CPCs. And I love those. If you can find something that's like just a really good brandable, even if it doesn't have a lot of search volume, but it's in an industry with like really high CPCs, great name. Like you want to have some of those. Like if you were to, you took off all your filters now, right? Or
no. So what I did now is
sort by CPC.
Okay. Just real quick, what these are names that have at least 3 extensions registered.
Okay.
So that's how I just, but also you can go up this. Yeah. And so I always tell people that like, don't get stuck on that it's in multiple. I mean, because somebody could have registered a crap name in 5 different extensions, right? But these are all other metrics to look at. Right? So these are just things we're looking for, things to try to narrow it down to look at and to help us.
Incremental. It's incremental. Yeah. Each thing builds on the next, right? Like so, there's one.
Wait, Vulcan.
Oh.
Vulcans?
What?
Huh?
Yeah, Vulcans. Yeah, Spock. You got Spock is coming up for auction.
I mean, that jumps out.
Vulcans.com.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just switched to CPC. That's what you wanted, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, doctoralprogram.com, $20 CPC, great name, but it's probably got a high, no reserve.
Yeah.
No
So,
reserve.
and keep in mind, this is just for the stuff ending today, right? Like, I think that filter's still on, right?
Oh, Miracle Moving. And there's great CPC
Yeah.
on moving. I want a miracle when I move.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
I want to just close my eyes, go to sleep, wake up, and I'm moved.
That's great name.
I mean, like even like canine school's not horrible.
Yeah.
But that only has a search volume of 70, but it's not horrible. It'd be like, somebody has one thing I did find too.
What does that stand for?
What's that?
CO next to CPC.
Oh, so that's your ad competition in Google, right?
Okay.
Which is significant, right? So CPC could be $100, but if there's no ad competition, then nobody's bidding on that keyword.
Yeah.
Wide width shoes. Huh. Of course there would be high competition on that. I bid on that.
If you're using this tool, one thing to consider though is it will, and I think Google across the board, if it's pulling from that API, Google across the board will link or will mesh misspellings in with the regular word, because it's just associating it with that word. So like you might have thousands of search volume. I have it on global search. You can put it on local, whatever. I have it on global just to give me some kind of broad number, but it might be a misspelling that Google. It's one of the misspellings that Google is just going to push it into the other word, right? So you just got to watch that.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, there's hundreds of ways to do it, but like I said, when I'm going through a big list, because we haven't even gotten to pending delete, right? It's got to be about speed for me within these parameters. But I got to tell you, like I find a lot of good stuff that doesn't show up anywhere on any of these metrics, and that's why I get them, because nobody else is finding them. And that's one of the things that
again, you're finding those because of your experience looking at thousands of names every day for years on end.
Yep.
That's definitely a learned skill.
What I think people can learn it, and one of the things I suggested when I did that the webcast with Siger is like, I mean, I think if somebody wants to learn this, they need to take like one day's list and go through it for 5 days, the same list, and learn to pick out stuff. I mean, and maybe you just don't. Some people, like say I think people that are like good at Jeopardy are good at finding, because you have a little bit of knowledge in a lot of different areas, right?
Like Yancey.
So you can see stuff. You see stuff that's going to have value that maybe other people wouldn't. So,
Yancey.
What's Yancey?
Has traffic. He does it's a no click traffic network. Hastraffic.com. Yancey was a Jeopardy champion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, when he was
That's so
super
cool.
young. He was like super young, and he was a Jeopardy champion.
Yeah, I just use that because like those are people that have like, they're all different categories. They don't specialize in anything, right? Their categories are all over the place. Their knowledge base is diverse. So, and I think that helps in doing this. So,
I think so too. I don't know. We lost him, but I'm sure he'll come back. I mean, maybe he had an internet issue or something. That's what I would assume. Okay, so what did you want to show us something else after this? This is usually the length of our show right about now.
Okay, yeah, basically, this is kind of the way I do it for any different list. Like I said, I'm going for speed initially, then I'll get a big list and I'll put it together, and then I'll go through it slower, and whether I'm going to names I potentially want to bid on, names that I'm going to try to back order and pick up at all, without an auction. But what I'm trying to do is trying to minimize competition, really, right? Like I'm doing things that I'm looking for names that aren't going to be like, I don't know a problem like putting a back order on names that I know are going to get lots of bids, but I don't want to ignore the other stuff, and because that's where I'm gonna find undervalued stuff that nobody else is finding.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, so that's basically, the gist of what I do compared to what I mean. And there's great names that I'll see that like I will bid on, up to certain amounts because I think it's really great. But some of the middle tier stuff where it's good, but I don't think it's great, but it's, I'll think, well, okay, I could spend $1,000 on that, or I can, use that 1,000 towards stuff that that's not on the radar.
Yeah. So. And that's interesting because Drew would do the exact opposite. And that's why I think it's so great to have both of you on together and to do a side-by-side comparison so that folks can watch and discern what works for me, for my preferences, for my skill set, my education, and my resources for selling too. So tell me, Josh, real quick, tell me about when you buy these, you're thinking about who's going to buy them from you or who you're going to sell them to. Do you do outbound sales, inbound sales? How do you sell your domains? And so, in terms of how that affects your purchase process?
These aren't the kind of names that I'm generally picking up aren't the kind that you can do outbound on. Like it wouldn't be worth it. There's, it's possible, but I don't do outbounds. It just wouldn't be worth it. What I usually do is on Afternic, definitely I put a buy it now price, right? And then I use Uniregistry as the brokers, and then I let them set the price. Dan sets the price for me, and then he confirms if there's an offer, if I'm willing to sell it. But to me, like, at this level, the more I sell, the more I'm cash flowing. Like it's, and I just keep going. And then that's been the model, right? I'm picking them up and I'm selling them. But so I need to put more on Cedo, but it's the lowest sell through rate that I have is on Cedo. So I definitely get them up on Afternic with a buy now price, and GoDaddy Premium if they were at GoDaddy too. Some people don't think there's a difference, but fast transfer kicks in right away instead of waiting for the ICANN time period to expire. So if I have a name at GoDaddy and I put it under premium listing, it can transfer out right away and it shows up in the feed. So I don't always, because I don't have buy it now prices on the landing page, I've sold names for a lot more than I had them listed for. So I'll have to go in and like take the listing down. People don't check. Like I sold a name for 10 grand that on the landing page had a price, because every once in a while I put landing, but they paid double going through Cedo than what the actual price. They didn't even type in the domain and look at it because the price was right there for 5,000 or something, and I had it on Cedo for 10,000 because it was the highest you could put, and I just put a bunch in at 10,000. So that's one of the things. I mean, I'll undersell some that way, having different prices, but the average person buying domains, and it is a testament to this, right? The average person out there buying domains has no clue what they're doing.
Yeah, that is true. So I think it's really neat that, and I think it's important to point out that hey Drew, that so.
Died.
Oh, I'm glad you're back, Drew. So Josh was just saying his, when he buys the domains, he knows that then he just basically puts them on landing pages and puts them for sale on Afternic, Cedo, GoDaddy. And so I think that really is important to highlight. That speaks to your purchasing decision. So Josh is buying domains that he's going to wait for an inbound buyer, from who would have that habit or reach out in those ways. Whereas
I got to jump in real quick because it's not just that, it's also marketing, right? So when I put them on Afternic with a buy now price or Cedo or GoDaddy Premium, that name is being marketed to people that type in something similar or type in that so I can get impulse buys that way, right? I'm not just waiting for people to come to me because they want that specific domain. They could go through the registration path, because now all these names are in the registration path at numerous registrars, and they're going to see it and be like, oh, I kind of like that.
Registrar market it for you. I think that's brilliant. Let them.
Right. I also have like 1,500 names at Brand Bucket, and that's also a like Schilling always like a boutique. Like we're boutiquing these things. We're putting them out there. I've sold a lot of names at Brand Bucket. We're putting an image with the domain. I wish everybody would do it. I wish GoDaddy in my listings, or Afternic, I could put a logo, and then they could go to and see a logo, because it is powerful. I think somebody can visualize it. Like, that's my business, right? That's my brand when they see something with it. But so it's not all just, the point here is that it's not just all random, like coming to me inbound. You're actually putting them out there, and people are going through and seeing them, whether it's in the registration path or the landing page with the logo. So it's active selling from that sense, but I'm not actually outbound, because these aren't the kind of names that I would outbound. Like, there's no way,
Yeah.
I don't know how
Not feasible.
No.
Yeah. I mean, and although Media Options isn't doing outbound, the visibility of who's coming inbound is different. VCs and serial entrepreneurs and things of that nature have a different path. Sometimes, although they also go to the registrars. So I think that just speaks to when you're buying and deciding how much competition you want, how much you want to pay. It's so cool to see both of you and how different you are, and yet both of you are so successful at it. I think we should wrap up today's show. I would love to do more, and I hope that the Sherpa Network put down what else.
Josh, unshare your screen so we can see you again.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah.
Your pretty face.
Up at the
share.
top.
There you go. So, Josh, thank you so much. Thank you for coming in and for your service to the community in between.
No problem. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And Drew, thanks for sharing your expertise. And both of you, I know you might not get the auctions that you just showed everyone about. Thanks for doing that. I think the show
what I put up was completely random, so I'll be good. Yeah. But if there's any other bidders, I'm out. So.
So funny. All right. Well, let's say goodbye, and we'll see y'all next time.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
See ya.